Chris, I think the first question I want to make to you, and let's say to introduce the topics of the application security and so on. And our mission is to help developers, help companies to build secure software. Right? That's the whole idea of the Devseccortes podcast. And one thing that always pop up to my mind, always pop up from the audience is like, what to do first? It's a requirement, threat modeling, SAST, SCA. It's to don't do anything. Like what, as you said, you are 35 years writing software and security. So what do you think that should be done first from the companies that they want to start right now onto the AppSec area, let's say?
I mean, that's a fair question, and that's a great question, because really you have an ocean, and where do you start? Because you can't boil the ocean, right? And depending on the size of your company and depending on what you're doing, really kind of defines of where you start. Think about, what is your threat, model look like? What, do you have external applications or an internal application? That changes a lot of things. And, talking about prioritization, if this was, let's say this was day zero, I just walked into a company and I'm taking it over. Where do I start? Honestly, I need to assess, what is my threat landscape? What do I have? And how knowledgeable are my developers? Because if my developers aren't very knowledgeable, then the problem is it doesn't matter what kind of tooling I have, they're going to just keep introducing more and more vulnerabilities. And so you're sitting there chipping away at the mountain, but you're not going to make any progress unless you start with them. So prioritization, to answer the question, I would start with analyzing where are the developers. Then I would probably do a kind of a 2 or 3 pronged approach. I would start with SCA and dependencies, because that's your low hanging fruit. You can easily go in there and just update all your dependencies. It's technical debt. Developers, are like, oh my gosh, security, I don't want to be involved with security. I just want to write my software and do my stuff and get things done. But the reality is the dependencies is just low hanging fruit that's just ripe for picking. And I would start there, and then I would then probably focus in on SAST, because knowing what your vulnerabilities are with your software and your developers is absolutely key. Because if they're introducing more and more vulnerabilities, you're not going to make any progress.
Cool. I would say that I agree also with this approach of, okay, let me clean up my dependencies, because we know it's a mess and it's normal and it's a long hang fruit. It's very easy to do it. On the other hand, is like, okay, let me keep this scanning on the SAST, for example. Let me introduce this continuous scan to make sure that I will not release any more problems or deliver any more problems to my customers, users, whatever. And this is one approach. Oi, gostou desse corte? Então te aconselho a seguir o perfil, que tem muito mais conteúdo, e também te convido a continuar o episódio completo na íntegra.